Talk me through this. Donald Trump. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Donald Trump. I'm going to ask this question in just a very straightforward way, and I want you to think about it. There's an instinctive answer, and then there's a more thoughtful answer. So think about the backstory to your own opinion on this. Why do you like Donald Trump? What is it about Donald Trump? Why do you like Donald Trump? Most sane people, I think, would acknowledge in any other world, this is not a man you would necessarily trust. You wouldn't lend him a tenner and expect it back. Oh, I'll give it to you next week. You can almost hear it. You wouldn't go into business with him because you kind of say, oh, yeah, we went bankrupt. Don't worry. But you did all right. Yeah, well, I did all right. But, you know, it was beyond my control. Like, the accountants just did it this way. You wouldn't leave your eldest daughter alone in the same room, maybe. You wouldn't put him down as a reliable witness in a court case. There's all of those things. But people love him. I sense this side of the pond, there is a disproportionate, almost love affair with Donald Trump. Now, the general rule of thumb, and I will always maintain this, I will educate my kids this way, is not to trust, really, any politician. The old adage that the fact that somebody wants to be one of the most powerful people on the planet should be enough to preclude them from even standing. That quote is attributed to many people, I think Billy Connolly being one of them. But that is true. I mean, the idea that you desire to be the Prime Minister or the President in this case, straight away you go, right, OK, what's going on there? That's a certain type of psychology to want to take that gig. And half of me wants to congratulate and envy somebody with that level of unbridled confidence. And there's another big chunk of me that thinks you must have so much of an inflated opinion of your own abilities. And we've seen that many, many times, right? But what is it about Donald Trump in particular? British voters actually back many of his policies. They looked at around about 2,000 people when they were looking into this. And when it came to things like his views on DEI and other areas of diversity, the environment and gender and issues, as we saw this weekend, US's frontier with Mexico, the border emergency team going in there. And then Colombia, what happened? Colombia was just a stroke of absolute, well, I don't want to say genius, because it shouldn't be genius. It's only genius when set against the ineptitude and the shortcomings of our and other Western governments. It should be just logical. OK, here's 2 plane loads of very bad people. We've got the drug dealers on here, we've got the violent thugs, we've got the rapists. We're deporting them back to where they came from. In this case, it's Colombia. So we're going to send the very bad people, not the good people, the bad people, back to Colombia, because that is their place of birth. So that's all very reasonable stuff, right? Let's get them back to the place that they were born, where they originate from. We're sending them back. And then Colombia go, no, you can't do that. You can't be sending bad people back here. Your people. No. And so Trump said, OK, we'll whack a bunch of tariffs on you then. See how you like it. Within about half an hour, they rolled over and went, fine, land the plane. Here's the runway. Now, it's that, isn't it? That is a good example of it. I'm not absolutely sure that all of Trump's tenure in the White House is going to end up quite necessarily as straightforward as that. I don't blame him. Any other leader would suffer, the same hurdles and bumps and potential hoops you've got to jump through. I think certainly on liquefied natural gas is going to be a big potential problem. There's a huge possibility of a backlash from voters on that. This is him unleashing American energy. He has essentially jumped all over Joe Biden, who'd previously said, no, we're not going that way. We've got some green energy spending. He's completely put that in the shredder, and he's announced plans to go back to what Texas does best, oil and gas. Now, if they concentrate on being, in his words, a global leader of exporting their energy, the downside of that, I mean, speak to an economist how this all works, is it could well mean that American energy, that energy domestically in America becomes more expensive. Now, America is already the largest producer of liquefied natural gas, but that could put them in a price war, which inflates the price. So there'll be things like that. Deportations, some of it can work. I'm not absolutely sure all of it is going to work. We've already seen that the birthright issue has been challenged by the courts almost on day one. But that doesn't mean that's Trump's fault. He's got an idea and somebody else has an idea to oppose it. But when you look at everything considered, what is it about Trump? Why do you like Donald Trump? If you were one of those people that was surveyed, hypothetically, why would you be ticking the box that, yeah, I like this guy? What is it about this guy? I'm always reminded of the American author and former civil rights protester Maya Angelou, who said this, and I think this is so telling, it's telling in my field of work as well. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Now, this is, of course, a great thing if you are, I don't know, the advocate of benevolence and charity worker, someone who only does very nice, fluffy things in life. People remember how you made them feel. That's it doesn't matter about, they can't quote the words you said, but they know you made them feel good. But when it comes to politicians, the idea that it's how it makes you feel is dangerous. Like when people argue emotionally rather than pragmatically. It's a real danger zone to invoke emotions into this. So many policies are about an emotion rather than an intelligent thought process. Emotionally, this person makes me feel good. Could be on the left, could be on the right, doesn't matter. It's not specific on Trump, this. But I do think he's got that in bucket loads. He sets the mood music. He says it in a certain way. How you say something, not just how you make them feel, how you say something, absolutely crucial. The sort of casual, saying controversial things in a casual manner is always a unique art. And he has it in bucket loads. 0344 499 1000. Forget the detail, just concentrate on how you feel. This guy's making me feel good. It's really good. So why do you like Donald Trump? A genuine answer. Because I can absolutely see all of the attractions around Trump, and I can see why there is an appetite to look at our leaders, particularly our current leader, and go, you see what Trump's just done there? Can you do that, Keir? See that? Can you do that, please? Because it works, it's logical, it makes sense. 0344 499 1000. Let's get a word on this story and a few of the other big stories of the day as well. Robert Taylor is back with us, the political commentator and journalist. Robert, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian.
We've talked about Trump a lot over the last couple of years. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but you have to recognise, where there is a talent. I mean, acknowledge the talent, and clearly he's not exactly bereft of talent.
No, and a lot of what he said in his inauguration speech last week, I can imagine people in this country cheering along to. We've had enough of diversity and inclusion. We've had enough of judging people on the colour of their skin. Frankly, we were brought up, I was certainly brought up just to be colourblind, ignore it, and just promote people on merit, give people jobs on merit.
Sure.
That's the way we were all brought up. That was common sense 20 years ago. And we've all gone against that in the last sort of decade. And it's so refreshing to see that sort of thing. It's very refreshing to see the way he's dealing with illegal immigrants to the US. I think we should be trying to do more of that here. Of course, some of the stuff he does worries me. I mean, I think the Greenland business, sort of bullying Denmark, is pretty appalling. I don't like the idea of giving Putin a way out at all. And I fear that that may happen. But an awful lot of what Donald Trump said last week is just pure common sense. And you're absolutely right. We need some of that here as well.
Yeah, and this comes on the back of that big phone call that him and Starmer had together, a 45-minute chat. I don't know, chatting to Keir Starmer for 45 minutes. I might run out of things to say after about 45 seconds maybe, but it was a big phone call. It wasn't recorded, interestingly, but we were wondering whether it might have sounded, Robert, a bit like this.
Hello. Please hold for the President of the United States. Please hold for the President of the United States.
Hello, is this Two-Tier Keir?
Hey!
Don here. I'm hearing rumors that you're locking people up for posting memes.
Yes, but because they are far-right thugs saying hurty words and upsetting you.
Listen, I'm going to stick my foot far right up your ass.
You can't do that to me. My dad was a tool maker.
Well, he certainly made a tool for the World Economic Forum.
Don't you bring Davos into this. I'll tell my mummy.
Yes, well, my mom, who was probably the greatest mom there ever has been, came from Scotland. She always told me, Donnie, don't ever let those commie take over the home country.
See, that's how I wonder if it went, Robert. What a nice thought.
Well, wouldn't that have been great? That's a wonderful sketch, by the way. Look, I mean, the first thing to say, it's really good news that I think Starmer was the first European leader, which just goes to show that the special relationship, if we can still call it that, is still worth something. And if we can get a state visit, then fantastic. That's all good. But it must have been profoundly awkward, given what Labour tried to, send people over to get the Democrats elected. David Lammy has said that Trump is a woman-hating, neo-Nazi, sympathising sociopath. Starmer himself, of course, loves the EU and formerly wanted to get rid of the monarchy. He's flip-flopped on that now. Trump is the reverse. He hates the EU and loves the monarchy. So there's not much in common between Trump and Starmer. I guess it was a case of diplomacy on that phone call for 45 minutes.
It's interesting. We're asking the question, why do you like Donald Trump? What is it about Donald Trump? I mean, you can wear kind of two hats on this. You can say, do you know what? I don't like this man. I don't really try on a personal level. I wouldn't trust it. As I said at the beginning, not absolutely sure I could go into business with him. He might be the guy that I'd check the bank account and realise there's nothing in there anymore. There'd be a good, sort of almost Del Boy-like reason why. Oh, no, don't worry, the money's coming. I've been made promises. You can almost see that happening. But simultaneously, you cannot. I don't want to like or love politicians, but you can still kind of somehow admire and respect what they are doing. And I think Trump's found himself in that place.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, he's a bit of a bully, quite a bit of a bully, quite frankly, Trump. He's determined to get his own way, and he does. And, he's the kind of guy you want to have on your side. But I think the important thing here is he speaks a lot of common sense. And the poll that was conducted about what British people think of Trump, apparently they said, look, here are some ideas. Do you agree with them? They didn't say to these people it was Donald Trump's ideas. They just said, here are some ideas. Do you agree with them?
Yeah.
And if you take Donald Trump out of the equation, people say, yeah, I really like that. So, that says its own lesson as well.
Let's move on to this story, Robert. Around 50 survivors of Auschwitz have returned there today to mark 27th of January 1945 liberation. Elie Wiesel was deported to the camp at the age of 15, became a leading Holocaust spokesperson. Here's what he said when accepting the Nobel Peace Prize. This is back in 1986.
It all happened so fast. The ghetto, the decrees, the persecutions, the deportation, the sealed cattle car, the fiery altar upon which the history of my people and the future of mankind were meant to be sacrificed.
I know this has been said before, Robert, but it's only, and this is the importance of reminders and remembering and making sure that days like this are commemorated, because only when you hear the personal stories, particularly those survivors that can talk about their childhood and seeing their parents being taken that way, were sent that way, other kids also went the same direction as their parents. I have no idea how people ever got over that or even found a way to live with it. It's for those kind of reasons, and of course what it all represented and what the liberation represented and what led up to the liberation and the incarceration of a whole group of people. It's so vital that all of that is not just remembered but continues to be taught in history lessons. It's a marker for so many other aspects of life.
Well, absolutely. And it just strikes me that this could be the last Auschwitz commemoration where the survivors are actually present. I mean, it was 80 years ago. You'd have to be obviously a young child to be there. And that's what makes this particular event so important, that it may be the last one when they're there. But I hope and trust that we continue to commemorate and remember these awful events well into the future. Never again, it said, well, it's important that we do make sure that something as shameful and awful as the Holocaust never happens again in human history.
It's interesting, King Charles is actually the first monarch, which surprised me, to visit Auschwitz.
Yeah, that did surprise me as well, and it's great. Obviously, it's really, really important that he is there as well. I'm sure. I think he has said today it's a deeply personal mission for him today, and I'm absolutely sure that's right. I think it'll have a deep impact on him, as it does for anyone who visits that camp.